what would be the best thing to make everybody from a mental health perspective?
To make everyone what?
Like either everyone has ADHD or everyone has depression.
Interesting.
Yeah. What would be the best society? Imagine if everyone had borderline.
Everyone's a kratom addict.
That wouldn't be bad at all.
No, we're all happy and productive.
No more back problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, not a bad future. We would come a little bit less, but you take it every day, I'm sure you'd be fine. And we're off. Off to the races.
Like Usain Bolt.
Off to the racists.
Like Usain Bolt. I feel like, how do you think he is as a man? As
Piece of shit.
Like, honestly, though.
Do you know what you have to give up to be the fastest man in the world?
I don't think much when you're built like he is.
Yeah, probably not.
Like, I'm sure anybody who gets to the highest level of everything. This is my non-original theory. Whether it's Michael Jordan or Lance Armstrong.
Yeah.
You have to have freak talent. Like 1 in a million talent. And be 1 in a million hard worker.
Yeah.
You gotta have both to be the absolute best. Because on both sides, you're gonna get people who are freakishly talented but didn't try as hard. Or you're gonna get people who, like, grinded to an obscene level but don't have, like, when you look at Jordan or Kobe or LeBron, these are all guys who are like absolute physical freaks of nature, evidently. Like guys who are 6'8" with a 40-inch vertical leap and freakishly agile, don't grow on trees. But also if you watch their documentaries or talk to people who know them, they'll all tell you, like, hardest worker they've ever seen.
Yeah. Doesn't explain John Daly.
Who the fuck is that?
Other best golfer in the world. Maybe below Tiger Woods, but he's up there. He's just like a fat, alcoholic smoker who looks like he does cocaine at the very least. I don't know if he does. I can't recall.
I'm surprised you even know this.
Yeah, I've heard about him on podcasts and shit.
Okay.
Because
you're not a sports fan.
No, not at all. I could give a fuck about golf, but it's like I've heard on podcasts. I think people talk about how Tiger Woods and John Daly were hanging out once, or like they were golfing together once, and John was like, "Oh, you should come party with me." And then Tiger was like, "Sorry, I actually have to try. I actually have to work and practice." Because John Daly will just fuck off and then still be like one of the best golfers in the world.
And he's not half black either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Natural.
Also, like negates negative points.
Yeah.
You know.
And he doesn't have the natural torque. This is like skull science now. Black men have natural torque ability.
Is it really?
No, I'm just fucking around.
Okay. Hey. Because there is science. Fast twitch, slow twitch, but...
I've been hearing a lot of skull science bits in the New York comedy scene recently.
What the fuck is skull science?
It's the science of different shapes of skulls. I think it's called phrenology. It's basically a racist pseudoscience that's like, oh, black people and white people are different because of the different shapes of their skulls.
That's weird that it's so skull specific.
Yeah.
Because you'd think, like, okay, maybe they're better at headbutting then.
I think it has to do with, like, brain size and stuff like that.
Okay.
I'm not an expert at phrenology.
So then, what is it, like a commentary on intelligence then?
Yes, basically. It's like, it's a supposed pseudoscientific explanation of why black people are apparently less smart.
Yeah. I can see that.
Skull science, you say, huh?
Yeah. No, there's. I've done a deep dive on like the bell curve and Murray, I think, whatever the fuck, and yeah, there appears to be very little evidence that there's difference in intelligence between races.
Yeah.
Unless you cherry pick from certain cultures, like you can pick a class of people who've been severely deprived of education and nutrients for generations or whatever, and then they might have a very slightly lower, even then it's like negligibly lower.
Yeah, and at that point it's not race, it's ethnicity, and more, it's not even ethnicity, it's culture. It's literally just the culture of a specific place.
Right.
The differences between cultures.
And there's like lead poisoning and shit like that. But like, like races in a vacuum, there doesn't appear to be any difference in intellect.
Yeah.
But there are studies about physique.
Yeah.
I mean, some of that is obvious. Like Usain Bolt is... all the best runners come out of Jamaica and Africa. Because they're
I didn't
built
know about
that
Jamaica.
way. Well, I mean, Jamaica, like, a lot of Jamaicans are very close to Africans. You know.
I thought a lot of it, Usain Bolt, Usain Bolt, I don't know which it is.
Insane Bolt.
Insane in the Bolt brain.
Insanely fast lightning bolt. Usain Bolt.
Okay. I thought he was from somewhere with a high altitude as well. So it's kind of like training in high altitudes lets you have better lung capacity or something.
Could be.
It's like the Rock Lee explanation. He's been training with weights.
I use that all the time.
That's what I always think of.
It's obnoxious how often. I'll be like, if I can just get my migraines in check, I'll be like Rock Lee taking the weights off.
I'll be like Rock Lee taking the weights off.
Hey, this is going on YouTube, buddy. All right?
I'm cool with it.
This is going on, what's another major platform that podcasts go on?
Vimeo.
MySpace.
Pornhub. Mark Norman always says that.
Yeah, Pornhub.
Yeah, he's like, you check out my special on Pornhub or whatever.
I wonder if you can find podcasts on Pornhub.
There's got to be some.
Yeah.
It would be weird if there were none. It just seems like it's like, if you're going to post a video of it somewhere, it would be a funny bit to post it on Pornhub.
Yeah, because there's all kinds of spoofs on porn. You can find celebrities with octopus tentacles.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there's like literal episodes of the Joe Rogan Experience that people just posted on Pornhub for funsies.
And then there's porn podcasts.
Mm.
There are also those, so I would imagine maybe those would be put on Pornhub, but that's probably not their first option.
You mean a podcast involving porn stars or like pornographic podcasts?
Podcasts with porn stars where they fuck on the podcast. I think a guy named Brian Six started doing that.
Why am I not jerking off to this?
Beats me, partially because you're sitting next to me.
Yeah, in the current moment. There's also Adam 22. And
that's who I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
I don't know. Brian Six might be a comedian. I'm pretty sure.
Sounds like a drummer or some shit.
Yeah. You can only drum in 6'4" or 6'8".
Yeah, those. Well, yeah, because they film a podcast and then they fuck in the podcast.
Yes.
So I suppose, and then they'll release just the podcast on it. So I guess, is it like? I guess it's a podcast where because the podcast, it's like two different things, really. They post the podcast on YouTube, and then they post the fucking on Pornhub.
Yeah.
It happens to take place in the same studio, and there's a seamless transition.
Yeah, and they're probably actually putting the fucking on OnlyFans or Patreon or something with a paywall.
That too.
Yeah, that would make more sense.
Yeah. A lot of them, they'll do the teasers on Pornhub.
Yeah.
They'll show you like 10 minutes.
But then they'll do the teasing on OnlyFans.
Then there's like 4 hours of deep anal on OnlyFans.
Yeah.
For the fucking freaks that want to jerk off to that shit.
Yeah. It's like the deep state, but the idea that everybody in the deep state's gay.
Everybody in the deep state does anal.
Yeah, it's the deep anal.
They monitor you through your anal cavity with chips. Hillary Clinton. Hashtag Hillary 2024.
With pita chips. They monitor your anal cavity by seeing if a pita chip can come out unscathed.
If they can, all the halal carts in New York City have chips in their pita chips. I'm putting a stop to this right now.
Please do.
What the fuck were we talking about?
Deep anal.
Why black people are faster than white people. So, yeah, well, there's also like negative buoyancy and black people having swimming issues and shit. Here's the thing.
This is beyond my knowledge.
Don't know what's true and what's false because I haven't done the research.
Fair enough.
Like, I don't know what is urban legend.
Yeah.
And what is fact.
No pun intended.
Yes. David Goggins is a real urban legend.
Yeah, there's a lot of black legends.
There's John Legend.
Yeah, there you go.
Very legendary.
I Am Legend.
Great swimmer.
Great movie. I Am Legend.
Is it really?
It's all right.
Yeah.
But it's got Will Smith, so it's an urban legend.
I feel like that's one of those films from middle school where people were like, "You gotta watch I Am Legend."
I was more of an iRobot guy.
Well, I, Robot, I mean, that's one of the greatest sci-fi books ever written.
I didn't know it was a book.
But the movie didn't live up to the hype, supposedly.
In the 24 times I watched it, I'd say it's pretty good.
It's not bad.
It's alright.
Dude, Will Smith was fucking crushing it.
Yeah,
for
dude.
so long.
Yeah.
Like...
Then he started launching the black-on-black violence.
It's insane. That guy's, like... There's not a lot of people who, like... People don't know this. He was the first person to ever win a Grammy for a hip-hop album.
Damn.
Like, he was a legit rap star. Then he does the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Knocks it out of the fucking park.
Then he got arrested for selling a Grammy of crack.
Oh, okay.
It's just puns.
Yeah. That's what I meant by Grammy.
Yeah, he got a Grammy of crack and then became on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Then, like, the movies this guy's been in. Why they're all sci-fi, I don't know. Who was like, let's take the hip-hop star and put him in, like, really... I guess Independence Day is, like, kind of a horseshit sci-fi film.
Yeah, and they weren't all sci-fi. That was, like, his big era was sci-fi. But then he had, like, 7 pounds or whatever the movie was.
He did other things.
Yeah.
But, like, Men in Black's not really sci-fi. But still...
It's kind of sci-fi.
Yeah.
There's aliens, right?
I don't know how he it's like Schwarzenegger became, like, the sci-fi action hero.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they just like acting in that sort of thing.
Yeah, maybe. And maybe just a lot of sci-fi has action in it. So it's like it makes sense that you get an action actor.
Right. And, you know, something about, like, black rapper it's just a natural fit.
Yeah, it is cooler.
If I were Isaac Asimov, I would want a hip-hop star.
Yeah.
In my movie.
And if the future's cool, you gotta get a cool guy.
Right. Which is either, like, a black hip-hop star or, like, the most shredded German sociopath on Earth.
Or, like, a little white kid. Who's like, we don't know why he's here, but he's really good at what he does.
Who's the little white kid?
The kid from Terminator, I'm thinking. Something like that.
Oh.
Or all the kids from that Stranger Things. There's all little white kids.
You ever see Stranger Things?
I've watched a season or two, but I'm pretty sure I was doing a lot of drugs, so I don't really remember much.
I haven't seen any fucking show. Anybody where I haven't seen any of it. I've been too depressed for way too long.
Yeah.
It's harder to get into long shows when you're depressed.
Yeah, there are a couple of really good ones that would just grasp onto your interests that I think you would like. I did just watch all 8 episodes of Avatar: The Last Airbender, the live-action show, and it was pretty great.
Right.
And Shogun, I think, would also be right up your alley.
But I mean, like, the classic. Like, people are like, Sopranos, The Wire, Breaking Bad.
Have you not seen those, though?
Not one episode of any of them.
You haven't seen Breaking Bad?
I feel like I've just missed a generation's worth of content.
That's insane.
And what's more troubling is that I don't want to watch them. Like,
yeah.
I want to watch them for cultural relevancy, but I don't want to spend all that time.
Why don't you want to watch any of them?
Well, because I hate life and pleasure. And, well, no, I
like Kratom.
Kratom's so much less... You don't have to stay engaged.
We're on Kratom. We are on Kratom, by the way.
We're on a responsibly small dose of Kratom right now.
You're on a more responsibly small dose than I am.
How much did you take?
I took 5.4 grams.
What's your routine these days?
I've been taking 5.4 grams pretty much every evening.
Okay, so you're climbing.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah. But it's only because, like, I'll take a day off every now and again, and if I don't have withdrawals, I'm like, keep it up.
Right.
Because it ain't hurting.
Sure. I wonder how long it takes the withdrawal. Is it usually a day?
I would notice it after a day.
If it were something.
If they were going to happen at all, I would notice after 24 hours.
Interesting.
At least 48 hours before the next dose.
Yeah. And 5.4... once a day is still not crazy.
Not crazy at all. When you get, it's basically the equivalent of like 5 milligrams of Percocet a day. And it's like if you're getting prescribed Percocet every day, you're taking it 3 times a day at 5 milligrams at the very least for whatever your issue is. And most people don't have any withdrawal symptoms from that amount.
We are medical professionals.
Yes.
We should specify.
In the sense that I have a psychology degree and you never went to college.
But we watch a lot of podcasts.
A lot of Huberman Lab.
Yeah. If Huberman Lab wants to sponsor this podcast,
Feel free.
Because he needs it.
He could be a guest. He needs that too.
He would be an amazing guest.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have extensive drug knowledge of which I've imparted a lot onto you.
Yeah, I'm your disciple.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Can we mention the website where this was born?
Oh, yeah. We did mention this in the first podcast.
I remember you being vaguely hesitant.
Oh, yeah, it's theshroomery.org.
Shout out to all our cucks on the Shroomery.
Shout out to the Shroomery boys. You don't know my username, but you would think I'm cool if you did, because you'd know me.
You're finally being represented on a public platform in the way you deserve.
Straight up.
For all your trials and tribulations.
You're finally having unwanted attention brought to your online accounts that probably have the same password as everything else you ever use.
Half of you are probably dead by now. Because the Shroomery is, it's a forum?
Yeah.
For drug users in general?
Most of the Shroomery, it's a forum for... The idea is basically it's mushrooms, is the name, is what that's derived from. But it's a mushroom growing forum that also has a lot of stuff about mushroom hunting, other mushroom cultivation, not even just psychedelic mushrooms, but other mushrooms generally. But then it branches out into also psychedelic drugs as a whole. And then there are certain threads and certain sections of the forum dedicated to other drugs. And so I used to participate a lot in one of these other drug discussion forums. And a specific thread, there are a couple that I would kind of go back and forth on, but there's one called like The Pub, where it's just guys who are like talking like they're in a pub, just like hanging out, talking to each other about their days. And then there's also Post Your Candy, which is just like people posting drug porn. So it's like they get coke, they post a picture of the coke, they post a picture of their black tar heroin, they post a picture of a sheet of acid they just bought. It was awesome. When you're doing drugs and you're that into it, you're just like, yeah, this is sick. That looks like some really good meth.
The most degenerate thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, it's literally food porn, but for drugs.
And they're like car guys. They're like, check out this fucking sick black tar heroin.
Exactly. They'd be like, oh, I managed to get some gunpowder heroin. It's like, this is needs to come by.
Let's go.
Yeah, it's mostly just like, looks tasty.
Right.
And then like a weird gif. And then the one I participated in the most was called What's Currently Active. And you just talk about, it was like The Pub where you just talk about your day or whatever anyone else is talking about. And then you would write currently active, and all the drugs and amounts you're on, and like whether or not they're like fading or you just took it or whatever. And so you just have this stacked list of drugs you're currently on.
Would you ever be comfortable reading some of your posts or other people's posts on the podcast?
Other people's, yeah.
Because some of them are legendary.
Yeah.
You've read to me before.
Yeah, there's some very entertaining ones.
Just took 35 bars of Xanax and Coke and Adderall and heroin, feeling like a god.
Yeah.
Might die soon.
There were guys on there who would be like IVing half a gram of heroin and half a gram of crack in one shot. And it's like half a gram of heroin is about 10 bags of heroin at once.
And they're like flexing.
Yeah. And then they're also shooting up like $100 worth of crack at the exact same time. Yeah. Not 100, maybe like 40.
Yeah.
But it's insane. And then they do the same thing again 2 hours later.
Now, because you said some of them were like cool guys, you learned a lot.
Yeah.
Do you think most of these people are like deeply mentally ill?
I mean, they have to be doing these amounts.
That's what I'm saying.
But there's some who would be like really on the rails. They wouldn't be off the rails. Like there were some guys who had kids and a family, and they would just be like, "Yeah, I drank 2 Coronas and I took 1.4 grams of white Mangda Kratom, and I'm smoking a bowl."
Right. But the ones that are IVing heroin, they don't have like day jobs.
No, most of them don't. If you're IVing that amount of heroin and crack, you can't have a day job.
Right.
There were other guys though.
But then how do they pay for the heroin? The age-old question.
Probably selling heroin.
Right.
They must be selling it or like getting disability or something like that.
That was one of my favorite bits off of Shane Gillis. I think it was his first special where he was talking about his sister who's a heroin addict.
Yeah.
And like has spent all of her, and I don't want to butcher the bit, but he's like, when you're a heroin addict, and you'll know what I mean. He's like, you got to go on quests. He's like, you gotta each day you wake up and you're like, gather copper. It's like
gather copper wire.
Yeah, like you gotta figure out how to get the heroin despite being unemployed.
Yeah,
and like non-functional.
You got everything against you. Yeah, I mean, I don't remember if I talked about this in the first one, but my ex-girlfriend was a heroin addict, and she was a heroin addict in New York, and she was voluntarily homeless for a period of time, living with her friends on the streets, and they would spange.
What do you mean? Sorry, what do you mean voluntarily homeless?
She had crazy parents, and it was better for her, theoretically, in her mind at least, to live on the streets with her friends than to live at home with her parents.
How do you, like, were her friends also voluntarily homeless?
No, they were necessarily homeless.
Okay.
Yeah. There was, maybe one of the other ones was voluntarily, but most of it was necessary.
Yeah, because homelessness is a real
it's a big spectrum.
You'll get your fucking schizo people chattering to themselves. Even in, shout out to Fairfield, Connecticut, which is not where I live, but I am around that area.
Yeah.
I may or may not live in Fairfield, Connecticut. There will be, like, every once in a while, I'll see, like, a college-aged kid holding a sign that's like, I'm going through a rough time, feed me. It's like, what are you doing? Like,
yeah, sometimes it's just better than their home life, but they can't afford to pay for rent or whatever.
Yeah.
Or they have a drug problem and their money could go to rent, but instead it's going to drugs.
Yeah, and most of them are fucking morons.
Yes.
And also, like, some of them I feel it's like a virtue thing, where it's like, I, like, I want to, like, put my pain into the world rather than just work at McDonald's, which is what you should do and can do.
Yeah, and it's also like it's an idealistic thing too, where it's like my ex was an anarchist and she was a crust punk.
This is exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and it's like part of that whole crust punk mentality to be like, I'm just gonna live the crusty life of being like just a punk in whatever area you're in, listening to that kind of music, living that kind of lifestyle.
I admire these people on some level.
On some level.
Because I just... I think they're really stupid, ideologically.
And you have to be unstable in some sense.
But the resolve it takes... Like, these people should be Navy SEALs or some shit. Like,
they can do a lot.
That's what I'm like. I can't... Even if I believed in that, I would break 3 days in.
No, they're very strong people in a lot of ways. And it might just be like, it's so funny because some of the strongest people in the world are kind of crazy in some way. David Goggins is a great example.
Absolutely.
He's not a sane person.
Not at all.
But it allows him to do incredible feats.
And he could be a drug addict in a different life.
Yeah, heroin addicts are basically David Goggins.
Yeah. They're David Goggins that they haven't found the way yet. They don't realize that they can do 400 pull-ups.
Yeah.
So they just shoot heroin and have a great time.
But she would have these stories from when she was homeless, because we started dating right after she moved back home, after a few months of being homeless. And she had these stories of, like, she and her friends were spanging, which is asking for spare change. That's the term they use.
Jesus.
It's kind of like busking is the word for, like, playing music on the streets. They were spanging. Some woman gave them $200, and this is for better or worse. This is why I don't give money to homeless people. Because they spent that $200 that night on a hotel room and 10 bags of heroin.
Of course.
And they just did and some food.
Because that's why they're fucking homeless and begging for money.
Yes, they could have jobs. They're not crazy people.
Right.
And it's not like they are down on their luck in a sense, but it's like they could be able to get their life together if they wanted.
Yeah, I mean, it's just never the best option.
No.
Is really the bottom line. Begging for money is never what you should be doing.
Yeah.
Even if you are one of these people that can't do anything else, and I have a lot of sympathy for those people. There are programs for those people.
Yeah.
Begging for money, it's only going to get you so far.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For food is different, too. Begging for food. And I'm more likely to buy somebody food.
And there are ways to go about it, too.
Yeah.
There's this woman in New Haven, Connecticut once. I'll never forget it. She was, like, sassy a little bit, but, like, whatever. She was very forthright.
Yeah.
She was, and I was a teenager. I was in high school at the time, so I was a little, like, intimidate. I didn't want to put my foot down. But I was talking to a friend, and she just walks up right next to me. It's like, you got any spare change? Interrupts my conversation. And I just want to get her away, so I give her $1. And she takes my, she goes, "That's all you got?"
Yeah, dude.
I'm like,
dude, people in New York, they will take you'll offer them $1, and they'll be like, "That's not enough for anything," and refuse the $1.
Yes.
They won't take your money, and it's not like you're giving them like a couple of dimes. I could see that feeling like an insult, but it's like, no, it's cash money. It's a bill.
Yeah,
it's
ridiculous. A miracle I gave you anything.
Yeah, really.
Which is it's unfortunately made me jaded. Every once in a while, there will be some guy who has the right song and dance and catches me on the right day, and I'll give him money.
Yeah.
But most of the time, it's also like it never ends. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if you give one guy $1, you're going to be giving a lot of guys $1.
Yeah.
Especially here. Because they're everywhere.
It's like Night of the Living Homeless in South Park. You give somebody a $20 bill, suddenly a whole bus full of them come.
Right, there's that guy. I've heard rumors. I don't know if this is just like, Tucker Carlson propaganda kind of thing, but I heard one of my friends was had apparently in Westport, Connecticut, which is one of the richest cities in America, if you're not familiar. We're both from Connecticut.
Originally from Connecticut. I live in New York now doing stand-up comedy.
I still live there. I'm cripplingly depressed at the moment for that and other reasons.
Understandably, living in Connecticut.
Yes. But a guy I know who's pretty trustworthy, he used to work at this restaurant, this very well-to-do restaurant in Westport, right by a highway. And he said that there was this one homeless guy who had a system. He would see him every day walk out with jars full of cash.
Yeah.
Because he and this is his.
You see the homeless guy with jars full of cash.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because maybe it's because it was in Westport, where people have a shitload of disposable income, or maybe he had the right sign or whatever. But I know this Guido server who's like, "That's why I don't give money to poor people."
Yeah.
Because they make a fortune. It's like they're fucking richer than I am, bro. You should have seen this guy walking out with his jars of cash.
I love that you also said maybe you just have the right sign. It's like, give me money or I'll rape your children.
Dude, it's all in the fucking sign, man. The signs go along. Dude, that's another thing that is a pet peeve of mine. Is some of these people will have the laziest signs. It's like, if your life depends on this, why is your sign homeless, going through a tough time, food please?
Written in pencil.
Yeah. But it also can't be too long.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. You get some of them, their whole life story, and it's like, I can't read that as I'm driving.
Yes.
It's got to be a headline. I will rape your children if you don't give me money, or something like that. Would be effective for some people.
Yeah.
Charles, I love Charles Barkley. The basketball.
I was going to say basketball player?
Yeah. One of the greatest basketball players of all time.
Yeah.
Complete freak of nature. Who is now a fat TNT commentator. He's one of those guys that just let himself go.
Yeah. You're not talking about Gnarls Barkley.
I would never talk about Gnarls Barkley. But Charles Barkley he also just happens to be really fun. He's one of these guys, if he wasn't one of the greatest professional athletes of all time, he'd be something else, because he just has a great personality. But he told a story of this homeless guy who had a sign that was "I need money for drugs and alcohol."
Yeah. Fair.
He respected it so much that he gave him $1,000.
Oh my God.
He's like, "Bro, that's a great sign.
Yeah.
I appreciate the honesty."
Yeah.
He's I need drugs.
Dude, that's funny too, because it's I do kind of understand that angle too. I have a friend who's he works in Connecticut as a social worker for a rehab. For alcohol, benzos, and opioids. So it's mostly alcoholics and heroin addicts. And he does see people on a regular basis who just for whatever reason they can't get on methadone, they can't get on Suboxone, something like that. Some government-sponsored, insurance-covered opioid that people use to get off of heroin. And it's either that they get the money for heroin or they're in full-blown withdrawals on the streets with nothing to help them. And so it's I get people who give them money knowing they're going to use it on drugs. Because it's like, that is a reasonable thing to do in some circumstances.
It is an act of temporary mercy.
Yes. It's showing them a little bit of care. If I were in that position, that's what I would want. And I'd want someone who understands.
But also, why wouldn't you just want them to go through the withdrawals?
Because
that's what they have to do eventually anyways.
Yeah, but they're not going to quit just because they go through withdrawals. It's just going to keep them longer before they do more heroin.
But then it's like, what's the point of giving them one good night?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, hopefully it keeps going and going until they either die or they can afford to get health care.
Right. Like, I spared you one brutal night of withdrawals so you could do heroin and then be in the exact same situation the next day.
Yeah.
You know? I don't like to give people free money unless I actually think it's going to make a difference. Especially considering all of the people in the world who really, really need money.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, there's so many different causes you can give money towards if you really want to make a difference.
True.
And it's tough sometimes. I mean, that's the big issue with charity is they've done study. And I'm super pro-charity. I'm a liberal. I'm not one of these people who's like, don't give money to charity.
Yeah.
It's the fucking bureaucracy and the Democrats, and they're just going to use it to steal elections.
Yeah.
Like, charity it's super necessary and makes a big difference. But just like every other fucking business in the world, like, there's a lot of it isn't done properly. A lot of it gets wasted. A lot of it goes to, like, programs that don't help them. So, like, it's one thing to make the decision, I want to be charitable. It's another thing to really do your homework to make sure you're making a difference.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Don't just give to, like, cleanwaterfund.org.
Meniere's disease.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to donate to the thing that affects my second cousin.
Yeah. I'm going to donate to my second cousin in hopes that he gets a house.
I'm going to give him methadone.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, come on, Mr. Drug Expert. I've wondered this.
Yeah.
What exactly is methadone and Suboxone?
I'll tell you, I've always wanted to try methadone because I've tried Suboxone and it's very lackluster, but I've heard methadone feels better. They're both what I think are called maintenance drugs. They're both basically to get off opioid withdrawals, or to get off opioids in a way that's like more controlled and won't be cut with fentanyl and xylazine and all this shit.
Are they opioids?
They are.
Okay.
So Suboxone's interesting. They make Suboxone and Subutex, but it's an opioid that lasts like, I forget if it's like 12 or 24 or even up to 72 hours. It's a very long-acting opioid. And it has, Subutex is just the opioid. The idea is both of these are very long-lasting, so you only have to take it once a day. You don't have to shoot up 4 times a day or something like that.
Is that pretty unique for opioid? Is there any other opioid that does that?
They're the 2 of the longest-acting ones. It's rare to find other opioids that last that long.
Do you know were they developed specifically for that purpose?
They were probably developed for the purpose of just a generalized painkiller, and they found it happened to be very good for getting people off of these. So for benzos and alcohol, the typical way that you get off of them is with another long-acting drug that acts on the GABA system of the brain, which is what Xanax, like drugs like benzos,
Valium
act on, and what alcohol acts on. And Valium is that drug. Right. Because it lasts, I think, 48 hours of active effects, and it's like in your system for 102 hours, something like that, 112. I forget how exactly it works out. But the idea is that if you take a long-acting drug, you only have to take it infrequently, and you can slowly lower your dose so that you're not going through withdrawals at all. You just slowly taper off until you feel nothing and can stop taking it entirely.
Right, or you feel minimal withdrawals, like when you finally get all the way off of it.
Yeah,
like
but ideally you taper off slow enough that you feel literally no withdrawals. That is the ideal medical way of doing it.
Got you.
And so it's rarely done that way. A lot of times patients will have some kind of withdrawals, but it's in an ideal world that is what you do, and it is possible.
So Suboxone, methadone are designed to wean people off of harder, shorter acting opioids.
Exactly. And Suboxone does that they're both long acting opioids. They have slight differences in terms of how they feel. Methadone is an opioid and an NMDA antagonist, which is like ketamine. So it has another level of effect that provides, I think, more recreational effect in terms of, like, it's more enjoyable to users, which can be helpful just for, like, if they're struggling not to do heroin, something that feels a little bit better might not hurt.
Right.
But it's also a liquid, so you have to go in and get this liquid every day. Whereas Suboxone, they usually give you several pills, and you take them home frequently. And it's a common thing with Suboxone that people will take it home. And I think you can take home methadone syrup sometimes, but it's more rare. And people will often sell the Suboxone for heroin if they're not committed to rehabilitating.
Sure.
And Suboxone's unique too because it's the opioid drug. That's what Subutex is. It's just the drug. But Suboxone, it's the opioid plus naloxone, which is Narcan, which is the drug they use to revive people from opioid overdoses. So when you take Suboxone, eventually if you take too much of it, the Narcan kicks in more and it prevents you from overdosing.
Gotcha.
So you cannot overdose with Suboxone alone. You can mix it with other drugs and overdose, but not from just Suboxone. Methadone you could if you took enough.
Before I continue, how positive are you that this is all recording?
Very positive on the recorder. Let me check the phone.
I just want to make sure.
Positive.
Since, the last time we had some technical difficulties.
We did indeed, but we are totally good.
How is it? Is that that just has full charge, or you have a charger? Or?
It was at 75%.
Word.
And I'm confident it'll last as long as we want to record.
But
the last point about this is an interesting thing about Suboxone is it's very much like Kratom, because it's similarly to how when you take enough Suboxone, the opioid effects get higher and higher until the Narcan kicks in basically and shuts down the effects.
Right.
Kratom works on three separate opioid receptors, but mainly the two are the ones that are important for this are the main opioid receptor that makes you feel euphoria, and another opioid receptor which it turns off instead of turning on, like the one that gives you euphoria. So when you take small amounts of Kratom, it turns on the euphoric opioid receptor, and it makes you feel better and better. But then when you take enough of the drug, it also the amount or the aspect of the drug that turns off the other opioid receptor overpowers the one it's turning on.
Right.
And so you start to lose euphoric effects because at this higher dose, there's more of the one that turns off opioid receptors than the one that turns on the opioid receptors.
Now, how high are we talking here? Do you know?
I've done up to 14. I've done up to about 20 grams before, taking 3 grams every 10 minutes or so. I don't think I've experienced a significant dulling of effects from that.
Right.
But lately I've been feeling like 5.4 grams feels a little bit more euphoric and stronger than 7. So it might be that it happens at a lower dose than I thought.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, do you know how long it would take to taper someone off of Suboxone?
Off of Suboxone, it's tough because...
Like, why? Because I feel like it gets a bad rap sometimes.
It does, because it's harder to quit than heroin in some ways because of how long it lasts. Basically, the longer it lasts, the longer the withdrawals last.
Mm.
So, with, say, Percocet, which lasts about 6 hours of a high, that will kick in withdrawals very quickly, which is why it's not great for tapering. But the withdrawals will be shorter. You might only feel withdrawals for 4 days to a week.
Right.
Heroin might be more like a week to 10 days because it lasts like 8 to 12 hours. And then Suboxone or something like methadone that lasts more like 12 to 24 hours might take 2 to 3, 4 weeks maybe to fully move from one dose to a slightly lower dose.
Right.
And so that could be a month to move from one dose to another dose, and if you have to move down 8 doses before you quit, that's 8 months.
So is the fear then that in weaning people from heroin to Suboxone, they're essentially like, okay, it's safer, but maybe not any easier to get off of?
Yes, a lot of people have that complaint who go in to try to rehabilitate themselves, but scientifically it is a safer option for rehabilitation.
Right.
That's why I like Kratom as a potential rehabilitation agent. It's not, it's a plant, So it's not like any pharmaceutical company can really profit off of it, which is why it hasn't been adopted. And I think it's a lot of the reason why it's been petitioned to make it illegal.
Yeah.
Luckily, there have been anti-petitions which have prevented that from happening. But it's very beneficial to a lot of addicts trying to get off harder opioids because it's a natural plant that's very affordable, and it can be used to slowly taper yourself off without the risk of overdose because of the part that shuts off the effect.
Now, is it strong enough is the question to really replicate for people who are psychologically addicted?
It's strong enough to stop withdrawals. And they will feel euphoria from it. They just might have to take a lot of it.
Right.
Like, there are...
Even if someone who's been doing, like, high doses of heroin, they could theoretically switch over to kratom, and it wouldn't be the same, but enough to scratch the itch potentially.
Yes, it would definitely help a lot, and they might have some withdrawal symptoms until they get accustomed to the kratom itself. But if they take massive doses of kratom, that might be able to solve the problem.
Right. And it's incredibly cheap.
Yes.
Even if you're taking it at high doses, it's still pretty cheap.
Yeah, especially if you're making the capsules yourself and buying it by the kilo.
I would imagine Suboxone might be free if you're on Medicaid or something like that. I don't know if it's free.
I believe it would be.
Do you know if it's free for like wealthier people?
If you're on like an actual medical insurance, I'm not sure what the cost would be.
Yeah, what the process is.
Yeah, they might be free because I think they do like nicotine gum is free if you've been a smoker.
Because it's a serious problem.
Yeah.
You know, to deal with the opioid crisis and all that.
I'm taking my minoxidil hair medication so I don't go bald.
Whoa!
Whoa.
Damn, dude.
Getting crazy.
Yeah, that's that's the riskiest behavior you've done all day.
Yeah, I do not glorify the use of hair medication, nor do I encourage our viewers to medicate your hair loss.
Only if you're a Jada Pinkett Smith type like this guy over here.
Yeah, with my alopecia, or if you're Hims and you want us to be sponsored by you.
Right. Yeah, Hims. Also, we stand for Kratom here.
Yeah, we're big supporters.
Kratom Mountain, whatever the fuck we're gonna name this podcast.
Yeah.
Kratom something.
I do like that name.
We like that name.
We'd love to have Kingdom Kratom.
Kingdom Kratom, Super Speciosa.
Herbal RVA.
You know?
We love all of our Kratom websites. And we'll stop mentioning the others if one of you sponsors us.
As an alternative to Suboxone.
But also, if you're on r/Kratom, it's totally not a drug.
Yeah, I've found that, I take it at very low doses. I don't even really, I feel any opioid-like effects from it. I take it for energy.
As far as you're aware, you probably do feel some opioid-like effects from it.
Minorly.
Yeah, it's very minor at those low doses. It's like the equivalent of a fifth of a Percocet.
Right, because I've taken Percocet before.
Yeah.
But I take it I've found it to be... This just sounds like such a fucking ad at this point. This is like...
I find it helps for energy and for productivity. And
it made my penis 4 times larger. It's so big now that I can't use it.
I haven't shit in months.
Yeah. It does, yeah.
It stops you from needing to shit, actually. Your body no longer requires that you shit.
It does constipate you, which is good because my... shits tend to be very watery and frequent.
Yeah, although
I
fiber
might
might
have allergic to something.
That's the other thing, is it's all fiber.
Do you know exactly how much fiber it is?
I'm pretty sure gram for gram it's just fiber. It's literally a leaf.
Right, but I wonder how much is in, if it's 2.4 grams of kratom, maybe you're getting 2.4 grams of fiber.
That would be my presumption, yeah.
That's not an insignificant amount of fiber, you guys.
It's not bad.
It's cheaper than a Fiber One bar.
Cheaper than a Caesar salad. Cheaper than a Metamucil.
Metamucil's a fucking ripoff, bro. I bought Metamucil.
I've had it before. I've had the biscuits.
You got to take like 5 pills to get 2.5 grams of fiber, which is like, you know what? This is such a horrible thing to talk about on the podcast, but if really efficient sources of fiber, for some bizarre reason, whole wheat burrito wraps have an absurd amount of fiber.
Wow.
I've been looking far and wide to incorporate fiber in my diet.
I do love whole wheat generally.
I eat a lot of vegetables, but vegetables have way less fiber than you'd think they'd have.
Yeah.
I put kale in my smoothies, and I was assuming, like, oh, this is all the fiber I'll ever need. It's like fucking nothing. It's
Damn.
like 4 grams of fiber for a cup. Medically, it's recommended that you get 35 grams of fiber per day.
Damn.
That's not easy, you guys.
What are you supposed to do, eat a tree?
What are you supposed to do? Eat out a fucking bush?
Yeah, you're supposed to eat his fucking bushy.
Am I supposed to go down on the fucking tree things from Lord of the Rings or some shit?
Or are you supposed to eat its grass hole or something?
Grass holes.
Yeah. That'd be not a bad podcast name for a weed podcast.
Yeah.
Grass holes?
In high school, we would have loved that.
We're grass holes.
We smoke weed and play lacrosse. I've never played lacrosse.
You know what that would be? It would be a wax bro. Weed, wax. The pens. It's wax. Okay. Yeah. And lax bro.
Yeah. I see where you're going with that.
Yeah. It's better when I explain the joke.
It's a lot better. We should explain all of our jokes.
Yeah. So grass hole was a play on asshole, but grass is weed.
For the deaf people in the audience. You know that I once... I wrestled in high school. Ladies, are you moist? I wrestled in high school. And I stole that from Mike Vecchione.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Admirable steal.
Admirable steal. Shout out to Mike Vecchione.
If you want to sponsor us, Mike Vecchione, we'll plug your podcast.
Yeah, if you want to come on this show to get 2 more followers.
Yeah. Dude, he has a new special.
I think it's not that new.
He has a new one.
When did it drop?
You're thinking The Attractives.
He has another new.
He has another new YouTube special.
Whoa.
The Attractives, check it. It's an amazing comedy special by amazing underrated comic Mike Vecchione, New York guy.
Who I randomly have seen 3 times live.
That is crazy. That you didn't know about him and you saw him 3 times
literally live. At least 6 years ago.
Damn.
Before he blew up. And I remember being in the audience, because my dad and I once saw him at this cringe comedy night at the Richfield Playhouse in Richfield, Connecticut, which is the super rich white town.
Yeah.
And they're like, let's just pick random semi-famous comedians and throw them on a card.
Yeah.
It was headlined by...
Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, it was headlined by Bill Cosby.
One of these random New York comedians nobody's ever heard of.
There was a headliner who's not even that famous. But we all were like, Mike Vecchione, easily the funniest guy there.
He's incredible. He's been doing it over 20 years, I'm pretty sure.
And I'm so happy he got his due.
Yeah. And he really hasn't gotten his due for what he really deserves at this point. He should be up there with Mark Norman, Sam Morril, but he's not on that level in terms of how much people know about him.
Yeah. We're jumping so around here, but I wanted to do a deep dive on fiber, and I'm so glad I did.
Me too. This has really just been an attempt to not talk about fiber.
But on a more interesting note, how do you feel about ageism in comedy?
What do you mean?
We just did some comedy open mics.
Yeah.
And it's almost all 20-something-year-old kids. But
for the most part, 20 to 30-something.
Yeah. There were a few 50-year-olds there.
Yeah, you get the odd 40 to 50-year-old comic.
I can't think off the top of my head of an example of a guy who got into it and made it late.
Rodney Dangerfield is the classic example, but that was fucking 70 years ago.
And he also did it for a while.
Yeah.
When he was young.
And then quit
he
for
stopped
a while.
For a long time.
Yeah.
But Mike Vecchione, he's been doing it he's been a professional comic.
Yeah.
He just got way bigger than he ever was before.
Thanks largely to people in his class or even the classes below him, like Mark Norman, Sam Morril, starting to make it.
Shouting him out.
Yeah.
And Rogan had him on.
Yeah.
But he was still a professional comic. How do you feel if let's say a 45-year-old who'd never done stand-up comedy before decided to start doing open mics around here? I feel theoretically he could make it just like anybody else.
Could.
If he was really funny.
But the odds are stacked against him at that point.
Right. I feel what do you think the biggest obstacles are, though? I feel the biggest obstacles are just sex sells, youth sells, Like,
yeah, that's a big one.
he doesn't.
The idea also that it takes so long to progress. It takes young guys even 20 years before they're considered great by any means.
Sometimes, but you get exceptions.
10 years till you're about ready for a special, something like
There's
that.
been some 5 years.
There have been,
years,
but
yeah.
usually people think that they're not that great yet. They're
Right.
like, it would have been better if they waited, and they're probably not. Most people consider it like, unless you're 8 to 10 years in, you shouldn't be doing a special. I don't know if any of this is true, it's just what I've heard. And if you're already 50, it's like you're going to be 58 to 60 by that point.
But there are, like, Louis is 50-something. Like, there are 50-year-olds who release great specials.
Yes, but they've
Obviously-
been doing it for 30 to 40 years.
Right, so, like, the guy who releases his first special at 50 isn't going to be as good as the guy, but... Like, if it, let's say it takes somebody 10 years to make a great special. If you start when you're 45, you release your first special when you're 55, theoretically that could be a great special.
Theoretically it could, but at that point you're then also having to tour to really make your money. And if you're touring at 55 for the first time, you're probably not getting great deals at the clubs yet. And you're going on the road, that's already hard on a young person's body. Doing that when you're older, pretty fucking tough. A lot of the guys who are touring in their 50s, fucking emergency vehicles. A lot of guys who are touring in their 50s and 60s are already in the private jet territory. They're like flying first class, they're getting private jets, they're touring on a really luxury bus. Something like that makes the touring much easier on the body and the mind.
Sure, but you have advantages too, like being more mature. Like you might get more sleep. You might not be getting fucked up every night like some of these young kids. You might be able to organize your. I guess what I'm saying is I'm almost one. I think it's definitely technically possible. Obviously.
Oh sure, yeah.
It is unlikely for a lot of different reasons. One, older people tend to be a little out of touch with like what's going on in the upcoming comedy scene.
And at least in the cities, the major cities, a lot of the open mics are filled with young people who might not relate to their material while they're trying to get better at writing material.
Also harder to make friends.
Yeah.
Networking's huge, and like who wants to bring the old guy to their parties and shit like that.
Although there are certain guys, there's like, I can think of one specific 50-year-old-ish guy who I'd love to hang with him. He's a lot of fucking fun. He's one of my favorite comics to watch. He's been doing it at least 5 years in the city.
I'm almost surprised. I mean, I'm sure there probably is an example we just don't know of, but like, I'm almost surprised it doesn't happen more often.
Yeah, I think it's just that there are so few of them out there.
Yeah.
And it's like, there are also very few, here's another example, is women in comedy. There aren't as many of those. And it's like, there's not as many women in comedy, not as many old people in comedy. But when you're looking to diversify a lineup, you're not looking like, oh, we need an old guy on the show.
Right.
You're like, no, we need to have it not be all men. Right. And when you're looking to book people for big shows or even put people on Netflix, you're like, oh, we don't have enough old guys. We should get more old guys. And if they want more old guys, there are very accomplished old guys they could get.
Yeah, and also there's just the thing of like, if you're someone who really has a calling and the talent to do stand-up comedy, what are the odds you're not going to tap into that for 30 years? You know what I mean? Like most people who get to that point they get to that point earlier.
Yeah.
But again, there's exceptions to the rule. Like I know, we both know some older stand-up comics or like, but also just people who are like funny as shit.
Yeah.
Who like maybe never even considered doing stand-up because they're of a generation where they were encouraged to do more practical things.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, maybe they raised a family, but now maybe they're retired, or maybe they have more time on their hands. Like, it would not surprise me to see some older dude. And again, they have a lot of disadvantages, but they have the advantages of wisdom, a unique perspective.
Yeah.
A sense of humor that's been curated over decades.
Yeah.
Even if they're not on stage. You know what I mean? They have that, like, wealth of life material to pull from.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't know. I'd like to see it.
Yeah, it would be interesting.
I'd like to see it. And this is also a fallback plan for when I blow off comedy for the next 30 years.
Yeah, really. I will kill you.
Regret it horribly. And I'm going to be the old comic.
I will shit talk you on other podcasts and be like, if you ever see this guy at open mics, tell him to fuck off.
Yeah, he missed his chance.
Yeah.
The robots are, it's all AI comedy now.
Dude, I was thinking about that too. It's like, a lot of comics are worried about AI comedy, and it's like, I do think as comics we should be, like, sure, it's potentially taking our jobs, but who are we? It's like, in a way, if it makes better comedy than we're making, the world deserves that. We should find other jobs.
Fuck you, Nick.
Yeah, I don't think comics like this idea. But it's
we need a Fran Drescher of stand-up comedy. We need Roseanne Barr to come out and demand a stand-up comic union.
There you go. Wouldn't be
so
bad.
This can't happen.
I do think there are going to be things about human stand-up that will never be achieved by AI stand-up, because so much of it's like people go out to your stand-up not only to laugh often, but to relate. And to relate to human experience.
Yeah.
And that will never be replicable by AI.
Well, the biggest short-term fear with AI is not that they're going to literally replace humans. It's that humans are going to steal their jokes.
Yeah, I haven't heard that as much as that it'll replace writers for shows and things like that, where they don't have a high standard for comedy.
Well, that's even sooner. But I mean, what's going to stop an upstart And I've seen YouTube clicks that I haven't clicked on because they scare the shit out of me and I don't want to. Of like, AI writes comedy in the style of Louis C.K.
AI, this is my Jamaican AI impression.
AI
smoke the chalice.
Write the comedy for ruin the stand-up comedy for everybody. Yeah.
What were you saying?
AI smoking the weed and write the comedy. Yeah, like if you could do that, if you could say write stand-up comedy in the style of Louis C.K. and AI could write original joke, or you could say something like write a stand-up joke about cocaine.
Yeah.
In the style of Louis C.K.
You can.
Then what's stopping us from just taking that bit?
It can even replicate our voices of like famous comedians.
Yeah.
There was this whole Legion of Skanks bit where they're like, it had AI write jokes in the style of the different comics on the show.
That's the clip I didn't click on.
Yeah, and then it actually does it in their voice too. It replicates their voice.
Did it do it pretty well?
Yes, very well.
So it was pretty fucking funny.
Yeah, and so some of the jokes were funny, and they were jokes that those people would probably do, or like they're in the style that they would realistically do. And I think Louis J. Gomez even said like he thought that the AI joke was actually like I forget if it was like a very unique angle, or one of them said it was funnier than what they write.
Yeah,
something like that.
So we're already there then.
Yeah,
like
really.
Questions answered.
Yeah, in a way.
That's what I'm saying.
But it's like if people knew that it was AI, then I think they would be less drawn to it. Because I think there is a level of authenticity to humans.
I don't think there's any way you could know. You know what I mean? Like, there are a lot of really opportunistic, talentless hacks out there who would be thrilled to steal a bunch of AI jokes and just perform it like it's their own.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what I worry. Like, how do you root those people out? You know what I mean? Because, like, I mean, obviously, I don't think those guys could ever become the best comics.
Yeah.
Because they would be totally beholden to those jokes.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be that great with crowd work. They wouldn't, whatever. But they would, like, water down the field. You know what I mean? And they could pump out a great special, potentially. Or even if they don't steal the jokes verbatim, they could use that as a template and then just change a little here, change a little there.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this when I get home later.
Yeah, really. Yeah. Never have to actually write.
Yeah, this is the solution.
Yeah, really. Yeah, I don't know what to make of it.
I'm fucking repulsed by it. You know what I mean? I would never want to do that. I hate the fact that it's going in that direction.
I mean, as long as we get universal basic income, I don't really give a fuck.
I don't know, man. I see what you mean as far as like, if you love jokes, why wouldn't you just want the funniest possible jokes?
As a fan of comedy, but it's also like part of what you're a fan of is the artistic component, and art is self-expression. And until AI actually is intelligent and conscious, it's not really expressing a self.
You're right.
And although I do have the feeling that once we are able to put consciousness of a level akin to humans into AI, they're practically indistinguishable from us. And I think
100%.
they should be granted all levels of human rights.
Yeah.
And they'll probably be superior and take over the human race, and we'll probably go extinct.
100%.
Because ultimately, we are flawed organisms compared to what we can make.
Yeah, and we can't infinitely improve ourselves.
Yeah, and we are mortal. AI would be able to be immortal because it could fix its own problems and continue to evolve as an intelligent being.
Right. But yeah, it's not just that it's personal expression of self. I mean, obviously it's that, but it's the game. It's the sport. When you see somebody crush on stage or crush in a special, it's like there's this like triumph of humanity and human potential.
Yeah.
And you almost feel good for that person.
Yeah.
Proud of that person. It's like
it's almost a reflection of yourself or your own potential.
Yeah, or just that like it means something more because of how hard it is to do.
Yes.
And how much it took to get to that point.
Yeah, because it's like with the limited capabilities we have as humans, it's almost like playing sports on steroids versus normally. It's like when you're achieving greatness in sports without steroids, it's very impressive because you know the limitations of the human body.
Yes.
When you have steroids, it's like, okay, it's impressive. It's even more impressive to see these big hits or big throws, but it's not the same level of like impressive on the. It's not impressive on the level of what humans are capable of naturally.
Yeah, it's not a human, and then at that point it just gets into who's taking more steroids and who's using steroids more effectively. It's a whole nother game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not about, hard work and practice and blood, sweat, and tears,
That's why I hate that guy who ran on those blades in the Olympics.
Oscar Pistorius?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I deserve it.
I don't mind that he killed his wife.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
Blade
we can
running?
all relate to that.
Fuck that Blade Runner.
That's what Blade Runner was based off of.
Yeah, Oscar,
retroactively.
Oscar Pistorius.
Yeah, Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah. The original one actually saw into the future and made it about.
No, but the second one was all about him. I think he's in jail.
Should be.
I don't know if he's one of those that got off.
Yeah, I bet he got off after killing his wife.
You know, I heard this on a podcast, I didn't fact check it, but is Cosby actually touring again?
I think there was talks about it, but I don't think he actually is. Yeah, but I don't think he's in jail.
So I was like, I'm buying those tickets immediately.
Yeah, really, that would be incredible to see.
That would be fucking crazy.
Because he's just a nutcase now. He's
do
so
mushrooms and see Bill Cosby.
Dude.
I'd be like, what the fuck is happening right
Talk
now?
about bad trip fodder.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Do some ketamine at a Cosby show.
I would feel so guilty, but I would also be like, this is like watching like a fucking saber-toothed tiger in the wild or something. It's like, this is an anomaly.
Realistically, you gotta take roofies.
Yeah.
It's like smoking weed at a reggae concert. It's like you gotta be in the mode.
You gotta get on that level.
Yeah, this was written for roofies. If you're not on the roofies, you're not gonna understand the jokes.
That'd be great if all his jokes were about date rape.
I got a new 4 hours on date raping.
Like Louis C.K. had to like address his thing in his special.
Yeah. Cosby fully addresses it. He's just like, now everybody knows my thing.
Can you believe I got off?
If somebody tells you to roofie them and fuck them, don't do it anyway.
I can't believe my wife's still with me. She's in the audience.
He's fully mimicking that Louis bit.
Yeah. Wow, I wonder if he'd still imagine if he like released the funniest fucking special, because he's funny as shit.
Yeah, one of the greats.
Like,
unfortunately,
imagine if he'd just been writing material in jail. You know what I mean? And like he comes out and just destroy. That'd be weird.
He's retarded from dementia now. It's crazy.
That's clear.
Yes.
Yeah.
That whole hey thing when he was on his way out of court. It's so insane.
He should run for president. He'd fit right in.
Yeah, really.
You know.
You want a second black president?
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. We need diversity on the card.
I'll get Michelle in.
How about a black date rapist, legendary stand-up comedian?
First date rapist president. This is a really bad Cosby impression.
It's horrible. Yeah.
And then
I didn't even try. I started talking like an Italian guy.
Yeah, I've also started losing my voice a little bit because talking on Kratom
Same,
always does
dude.
that.
Is that where it's coming? I'm like, why am I so hoarse?
I get that from talking on Kratom.
Weird.
I don't know why it is.
Hmm.
It's probably because it's fucking tearing our throats up while we speak.
Hmm. All that fiber.
Yeah, it's right in my throat.
Listen, guys, if you want fiber,
Kratom.
put down the Metamucil.
Pick up the Krat.
Pick up whole wheat burrito. I was in shock. There was 25 grams of fiber in a whole wheat
Ooh,
burrito
Mr.
wrap.
Fiber.
And it didn't even fuck my system up.
Damn.
I thought it was gonna hurt going down.
Oh, you gotta get some fucking fiberglass.
Does that loosen your bowels?
Technically it will. It'll tear them right up.
Constipation apparently is terrible for you. I didn't realize this.
That's what killed Elvis.
You can get diverticulitis. Like you're not. You want smooth shits.
Yes.
You don't want things rubbing up against your intestines.
Have you seen the poop chart?
Bro, I live in the poop chart. It's when you walk into my endoscopist's office.
Oh, yeah.
It's right up there.
I live in poop charted territory.
Yeah. What are your shits like?
Pretty good.
Weren't you having like loose stools for a while?
Yeah, I used to have the runs a lot, but it stopped. It was
That's
like
weird.
I think it was just in
The
college.
Kratom, right?
Not even. I think it was just in college when I was eating like shit.
Mm.
But I don't know. I've been eating like shit lately again, and I'm fine. I've been eating fucking sleeves of Oreos, or lately it's been Fruity Pebbles.
Oh.
It was the cheapest thing at CVS. 2 for $8. 2 family size
Nice.
boxes.
You just announce that to the world. Throw yourself under the bus.
Sponsor me on CVS. CVS sponsor us.
Fruity Pebbles.
Yeah.
That's the throwback.
Even though I
can
prefer
appreciate
Cocoa
that.
Pebbles.
Cocoa Pebbles were the shit.
It's because I like black girls more than gay girls. To
Yeah.
fuck, not as people.
Absolutely.
You got Asian Pebbles?
I don't think it's legal to fuck a gay girl.
Not unless she asks for it.
Then she's not. Well,
Well, she might be.
she could be in a mood.
Yeah. She might just not like it.
Right.
But she might be like, hey, I feel like I need some struggle in my life.
Be a masochist.
Yeah.
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 Masochism, that's like a weird paradox.
Yeah.
Sadism, masochism. I still don't really fully understand it.
It's, like you don't understand being into it?
Well, I know a masochist.
Yeah.
I know a masochist.
I'm slightly masochistic.
And
I'm slightly sadistic.
I'm
That's what it
like,
is.
do you like pain? Like, if I beat the shit out of you right now, would it feel different than if somebody beat the shit out of me? Does pain feel differently to you?
Are they a sexual masochist
do
or
you
just
like
generally?
pain? Just generally and
Weird.
sexually. Like they enjoy pain, but I don't know if that's then if you enjoy pain, then it's not pain.
Yeah.
It would seem like.
Although there is a combination of pain that becomes pleasurable.
I think my theory is it's a psychological thing.
It is.
Yeah, I feel like it does hurt,
Yeah.
but they have some weird brain response.
I mean, I've had sex with masochists, and it's like they do like being choked or hit or like basically like stabbed with things almost.
In a way that's viscerally painful.
Yes.
Because we all know like things that like hurt so good, like flossing.
Yeah,
you know?
that's part of it though.
But I mean, like, there are some people that like to get hurt in ways that are like undeniably, excruciatingly painful, like cattle prodded and shit.
Yeah, there are guys who get
Love
together to castrate each other.
Really?
Yeah, you can buy these castration tools on Amazon.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I think I heard David Tell and fucking...
Ian Fidance?
No, it was it's an LA guy. He's from Boston originally. Greg Fitzsimmons.
Oh, okay.
David Tell was on his podcast, and I think they were talking about this.
Interesting.
But yeah, it's just they fully castrate each other, chop each other's nuts off.
Oh, dude.
Yep.
That sounds so fun.
Yeah.
Fuck.
But I get the masochism in the context of sex, because it's like, if you're also being fucked while you get hurt, that combination of pain with pleasure can make it even more pleasurable.
But sometimes it's not while they're getting fucked.
True.
You know what I mean?
And some guys like dominatrixes who don't even fuck them. They just step on their nuts.
They just like getting fucked up.
Yeah.
And that's why I was like, does it hurt less for your nuts than my nuts? Because if somebody kicks me hard in the balls, it is an instantaneous, involuntary pain response.
Yeah.
Like, I'm in bad shape. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm the same way. I don't like pain.
But I watch some of these fuckers I've watched porn out of curiosity, and they get fucked up, but I think that they like it. That, like, they'll collapse, and then they'll be like, that was sick.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's a twisted mental disorder in a way.
Yeah.
But it's like, I guess...
Mental abnormality, not disorder.
Exactly. Right? It's so interesting how almost everything's an abnormality now instead of a disorder. It's like, it's not like it's wrong, it's just different.
Neurodivergence.
Yes.
Yes.
But that could go as far as being like pedophilia, serial killers. They're just neurodivergent.
Well, they are.
Yeah.
You know, literally.
Yeah.
And then we make ethical judgments on neurodivergence because some things are healthy for society and some things aren't.
It is interesting that we arrest them, though, instead of trying to rehabilitate them. Because that seems like it would be the better option. Because it's not like it's their fault they like kids. Or that
their fault that they fucked kids.
Yes, but you'd think that would be a mental... Like, you'd think that'd be like insanity. Where it's like, this guy's insane, he needs to go to an asylum. And be, like, fixed.
But the whole thing with insanity is that you can't really control your actions.
Yeah.
Like, if you're... Like, pedophiles are sane.
Yeah.
They chose their pleasure
What about psychopaths? Like, people serial killers.
Well, some serial killers are, like, insane and some of them aren't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, some of them are schizophrenic or whatever.
Yeah.
Some of them are just sociopaths.
You know what I mean? I guess just because it's like I've obviously never been a serial killer. I don't know if that's literally an irresistible urge, or if it's just like, I just really feel like killing today, but I guess I won't. Fuck it, I'll do it.
That's my understanding, because that's a common story with a lot of serial killers.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, a lot of them, like, there's a push-pull.
Yeah.
Where they're like, okay, it's the last one.
Yeah. Interesting. It's like chocolate.
But then other ones are fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Like, they just go into a rage and start chopping people into little pieces.
Yeah, fair.
So.
It's interesting.
But I agree with you that the whole, like, the insanity plea. But then you get into, like, is a mental institution any better than prison?
No, but it's not about being better. It's about being more suited to fixing the problem.
Right. I get then it just comes down to what problems are fixable.
Yes, exactly.
I guess with insane people, it's like, well, maybe if we put them on an antipsychotic.
Yeah, but you'd think a serial killer would be better off lobotomized than put in jail, where they still have those feelings, and they could just kill other jail people.
I don't know. I mean, are lobotomies still a thing?
No, but I mean, for certain things, they probably should be.
Well, there are experimental brain procedures.
Yeah.
With like people with like really severe depression or OCD, there's things where they can cut parts of the brain off.
Yeah, or like transmagnetic stimulation or something like that.
Yeah, and actually some of those are remarkably effective.
Yeah.
But obviously more dangerous. Like if
Yeah.
you're cutting off a part of somebody's fucking brain.
I mean, at what point do they deserve it?
Yeah, or it's a moot point.
Yeah, it's like if you're gonna put somebody in jail for life, you might as well cut off a little piece of their brain.
I'm sure they'd be fine with it.
Yeah. Honestly, a lot of them probably don't want to be that way. They're just like, I just can't help it.
Some of them, yeah. And also some of them, like, having them a lifetime in prison would be a fate way worse than death.
Yeah, especially as like a pedophile.
They'd be like, kill me now, please.
Yeah, where you're at like the bottom of the ladder in the prison.
Oh, yeah.
You're just going to be raped every day until you die.
Yeah, and in that regard, it's like, do they really deserve that any more than, like, Bernie Madoff? You know what I mean? Like, I've thought about...
Yeah.
It seems like a selfish person is a selfish person, or a sociopath is a sociopath. And the crimes that you commit say less about how how ethically bad you are and more about your preferences.
Yeah.
Like, in other words, if you get a really bad dude who wants to fuck kids, he's gonna fuck kids.
Yeah.
If you get a really bad dude who doesn't want to fuck kids, he's totally normal sexually.
But wants to fuck people out of their money.
But he wants to steal all your money. He's gonna do that. Bad people do bad things.
Yeah.
So making the hierarchy of like, well, pedophiles are up here, and people who burn people's houses down are here, and people who fuck dogs, they're all fucking sociopathic assholes.
Yeah, their ethical predisposition is the same. They just have a different drug preference.
Desire.
Basically.
Yeah. But as far as the institution, I mean, you can't rehabilitate a pedophile.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, but you could potentially rehabilitate an insane person. Depending on what type of insanity they have.
Yeah, if there's a medical diagnosis that you can specify and some sort of cure that you can figure out.
There's also ethical differences at that point. It's like if somebody's sane and they made the choice to fuck a kid, well then that's 100% their moral liability.
Yes.
Where if somebody's literally out of their fucking mind and you can give them a drug that stabilizes them, well then they didn't really make a rational decision.
Yeah.
They were having like a fully psychotic episode.
Interestingly, though, the sane person who decides to fuck a kid could be rehabilitated. Theoretically.
Yeah. It's true.
Because it is just a choice at that point.
Well, there's the famous thought experiment. There was that guy, true story, guy who had a late in life, he was like normal job, wife, kids. Late in his life, he developed a brain tumor. That just happened to turn him into a psychopathic, not necessarily psychopathic, but a raging pedophile.
Damn. What the fuck, dude?
Yeah, what a great life.
Yeah.
This dude was like, wife, kids, normal, had a brain tumor that just made him want to fuck kids left and right.
Damn.
And he did.
Good thing he didn't get it cured at St. Jude's.
Yeah. Ba-bum.
Yeah.
Thank Christ.
Not baby Jesus.
But yeah, it's like how much can you judge that guy?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Ultimately, it's instant. Well, it's the same level of how much can you judge anybody in that regard.
Well, then you get into free will.
Yeah, it's just psychological.
Human beings don't have free will.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Ultimately, you can't judge anybody for anything.
Yeah.
But we're not going to talk about that on the podcast.
No, exactly.
Because we're great people.
A whole new bucket of worms.
Yeah.
Free will.
You have to judge people for things.
Yeah.
Because society needs ethical standards.
Yeah, it's the only way to maintain some degree. And it's also like chicken or the egg thing with free will. Is it free will, but you can also affect it by changing the laws of society?
By changing the laws of society, absolutely.
Yeah. Then new people are made with a different fate, essentially.
Yeah. It doesn't make the individual people more free.
No.
But it impacts their decisions.
Yeah, it definitely forces it in a certain direction.
But once you get, like, if we live long enough to understand the brain enough, we will very likely get to a Minority Report sort of scenario where we can where Tom Cruise stars and everything.
Yeah, and we start reporting minorities. This guy's fucking black.
That's the real problem.
Yeah. Just we're all Karens.
Yeah. Put the black people in the insane asylum. Let the pedophiles back out.
Rehabilitate them.
Yeah. Make them white. Bleach them. The Minority Report.
Jesus Christ.
But no, like, once you get to a point where you can very accurately predict people's behaviors, or you can then you get into issues of like causality and quantum mechanics, and like it's kind of impossible to fully predict the future. But if you could be like, okay, this guy, based on his, like, he's very likely going to be a pedophile or whatever, with a very high risk of pedophilia.
From a better understanding of the human brain and being able to actually see everything about the brain.
Then at that point, then you wouldn't want to throw him in you'd want to like just separate him from society.
Yeah, well, at that point where we're able to determine that much based off of just like There's the whole thing about figuring out the whole human genome and things like that.
Yeah.
Once we're able to know everything there is to know just by observing a body, we're able to know everything about the person that's going to be. We'll probably be able to fix everything in the human body too, around the same period of time.
Right, and then you get into eugenics and like, why aren't we just gonna make everyone look like Gigi Hadid? And, like,
why aren't we just gonna give everyone Down syndrome so we're all happy?
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, wouldn't that be a great world? Where everyone has Down syndrome?
Nothing would get done, though.
No.
It'd be a horrible world because there'd be mass famine.
You'd have some crazy Super Smash Bros. Tournaments.
Yeah, they all suck.
Yeah, dude.
They're just like hitting the fucking C-stick.
They're all playing Mewtwo.
Yeah. Yeah. The Down syndrome character of choice.
Yeah, Pikachu.
Why can't I recover? Every time I fall off the ledge, I just die.
They're just all charging the ball, but they never let it go.
Yeah.
It's gonna get bigger.
No, Down syndrome society would be like the happiest society ever until all infrastructure collapses.
Yeah, then it's gonna be,
and there's no
so
doctors.
Hungry.
Yeah.
We're all so hungry.
I don't know how. Do you know? Like how. It's ambiguous to me how capable people with Down syndrome are.
I do think it's a spectrum. Some are more able.
Everything's a spectrum. Why is everything a fucking... Isn't that annoying that everything's a fucking spectrum?
Nothing's black and white.
I just want to make judgments about people.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah. Like, this person's a fucking asshole.
Yeah, luckily all Down syndrome people are exactly the same.
Right. They can't be trusted with jobs.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, you get like the high-performing Down syndrome people.
Yeah.
Who, like, but they do remarkable things. And then you get ones that like live with their parents forever.
Yeah. Some of them just have the face. Some of them also have the brain.
Right.
That's a good place to sip. Right. That's a statement.
A long, loud sip. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
We should probably wrap this thing
We
soon.
definitely should.
I think this is a fun note to end on.
Yeah.
I think one day we'll all be Down syndrome, and everyone will be happy for a couple hours.
I wonder if you had what would be the best thing to make everybody from a mental health perspective?
To make everyone what?
Like either everyone has ADHD or everyone has depression.
Interesting.
Yeah. What would be the best society? Imagine if everyone had borderline.
Everyone's a kratom addict.
That wouldn't be bad at all.
No, we're all happy and productive.
No more back problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, not a bad future. We would come a little bit less, but you take it every day, I'm sure you'd be fine.
Yeah. All right.
That's a good note to end on.
That is.
Take kratom responsibly if you decide you want to try opioids.